I'd like to call the City of Pompano Beach Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for Thursday, August 17th, 2023 to order. Martha, would you please call the roll?
Yes, good evening. James Bunn.
Present.
Charlotte Burry.
Present.
Penny Cutt.
Here.
Richard Daly.
Present.
Linda Thomas.
Present.
And Dan Yaffe.
Here. Thank you. We do have a quorum. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the July 20th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Comments, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I'm going to take a few minutes, folks. I don't know if you're represented by council or you're here by yourselves, so tell you a little bit about what we're going to be doing tonight. We're the Zoning Board of Appeals. The six of us, and that's the two folks to my right and three folks to my left, we're a little off-centered here, are the board. We're city residents. We serve with no compensation. To my far left is James Saunders, Assistant City Attorney. To my far right is Scott Reale, Development Services. And the most important person is Martha Lawson. Be sure that you treat her well, because otherwise you will get caught somewhere. We're here to listen to your request for relief, whether it's a variance, special exception. I think those are the only two we have tonight. And the process is I'm going to call your case. You're going to come up to that podium, and I'm going to swear everybody in at one time. But I'm going to ask you for your name, your address, and tell me if you've been sworn in. This is a legal hearing where everybody's going to be under oath and being videotaped, and we just need certain things done properly. Then Mr. Reale will read the staff report, and then you'll have an opportunity to present your case. You can use any exhibits you have. If you need to be hooked into our electronic systems, we can do that. You can call witnesses. At any point, the board may just stop you and ask you questions, but you're going to have an opportunity. This is a public hearing, so if someone's here just to speak for or against, you'll have an opportunity. There'll be a time set aside for that. Once the board's finished asking you questions, and you just ask if you have any closing comments at that point, hopefully you'll say no. If you need more time, we'll work on that. And the public hearing will be closed. At that point, someone in the board will make a motion, or there may be some discussion. Sometimes the motion is made first in the affirmative, that is to grant you the relief you're seeking. There'll be a roll call when it's seconded, and in the roll call, you need to have 5 out of 6 of us saying yes. It is not a simple majority. I want to be sure you understand that. And you'll know tonight if you're approved or not. So, with that in mind, I'm going to ask everyone who thinks they're going to speak to please stand up, and Martha will swear you in.
Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the evidence that you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you. You may all be seated. I know I'm working on it. All right, first item of the day, item number 1, LN 478, is a variance from Marine Colony HOA. It's P&Z 23-11000013. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Maria.
You can pull the microphone down.
My name is Maria Cecilia Intriago. I'm the new appointed president of Marine Colony Condominium Association. My address is 2800 Northeast 14th Street, Unit 119, and I've been sworn in.
Thank you. I forgot to say there's one more thing. I need you to spell your last name.
Intriago. Intriago.
That's how I would have spelled it. Thank you. Mr. Reale?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening, members of the board. Scott Reale with Development Services. Before I get into this, I just wanted to state that on the record that this item was originally on the July 20th meeting agenda, but the applicant failed to show, so the board voted to postpone the item to a date certain, which was this meeting tonight. So that's why it was not renoticed. It was renoticed initially for the July meeting. So the applicant landowner is requesting a variance from section 155-5102-1, which are the dimensional standards for parking spaces and aisles of the city's zoning code, in order to allow approximately 15 backout spaces to be maintained around the terminus of the Northeast 28th Avenue cul-de-sac. The applicant seeks to approval to retain the minimum width of the parking spaces at 8 feet rather than provide a minimum stall width of 9 feet as required by code. The subject property is part of the Marine Colony condominium complex located at the terminus of Northeast 28th Avenue and south of Northeast 14th Street Causeway. The complex, now known as Marine Colony condominium, was first developed in the late 1960s in the Country Club Isles subdivision. The original plot plan, which is shown on your staff report, confirms the unique and unorthodox parking configuration around the Northeast 28th Avenue cul-de-sac. It's essentially the same as it is today, with the exception of 3 additional parking spaces that were added at some point over the years. Staff couldn't find any record or building permits, but these 3 additional spaces are now in existence, and there were 14 in the 60s when this was originally approved. So some of the stalls may be less than the 9-foot wide requirement as a result of adding 3 spaces. CO code and restripe building permit 23-660 was recently approved, but at the time of inspection, it was discovered that several of these parking spaces around the cul-de-sac fell short of the minimum stall width of 9 feet, some as narrow as 8 feet wide along the cul-de-sac circumference line. It should be noted that because of the circular nature of a cul-de-sac, the width of these parking spaces obviously widens as one moves further away from the beginning of the cul-de-sac. In other words, the width of the affected parking space stalls are only deficient near the cul-de-sac lot line, but the dimensional width is compliant at the front end of the stalls. The applicant contends parking is at a premium in this development, and they would, losing these 3 parking spaces, if they had to be restriped to comply with code requirements, they would lose 3 parking spaces. Staff does not object and finds the requested relief to be justified. Northeast 28th Avenue dead ends at this cul-de-sac and has a very little vehicular traffic. The parking layout is essentially unchanged from when the property was first developed, and this unique aspect of the parking spaces around the cul-de-sac are exceptional and do not generally apply to other lands or structures in the vicinity. As you know, there are 8 variance review standards, which are included in the staff report. The applicant has addressed each of these, and should the board determine that the applicant has provided competent substantial evidence to satisfy those review standards, staff recommends the board include the following 2 conditions as part of the order. 1, obtain all necessary governmental permits and approvals, including building and zoning compliance permits. And 2, substantial conformance to the plans submitted with building permit 23-660. And the variance is conditioned upon compliance to the plans submitted and is limited to the improvements identified in the scope of work. Any subsequent permit application submitted deemed a substantial improvement or new construction will not be part of this variance approval and will be subject to applicable zoning codes. And that concludes staff's report.
Scott, if I understood you correctly, for the last 60 years, these parking places have been there, and then they pulled a permit to resurface them? The
Yes.
inspector came out and realized that half of the spaces meet code, but the bottom half, because of the way the pie shape is or semicircle, don't meet code.
Correct.
And they don't meet code by how much?
They vary between the report on the inspector's report said some are close to, or everything is over 8 feet. So some are as little as 8 feet and a little bit. Some are 9 feet wide. 9 feet is the requirement. So
There's
at
not,
most,
we're not down to 6 or 7 feet.
no. And again, it's these 3 parking spaces. We don't know. I tried looking at aerials to see when they were added. We don't know. It wasn't through this permit. They just restriped what was there. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you. Ma'am, I think we get it, and you have staff saying it's a good idea.
Thank you for the opportunity, and and appreciate your considering the variance. The parking is at a premium there. It's not a safety issue. It's right at the cul-de-sac, right in front of the pool. And once you pull in, it's kind of pie-shaped, so once you pull in at the end, it is a lot wider. And it's not, we don't have traffic there, it's just a residence. There's no commercial traffic on 28th Avenue, and we really would appreciate you allowing us to keep the parking spaces.
What's the required size for a parking space?
The standard parking stall size is 9 feet wide and 18 feet in depth. And they all meet 18 feet in depth. It's the 9 feet wide for some of these spaces, that is somewhere between 8 and 9 feet for a few of them.
Okay, thank you.
This is a public hearing. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak in support of the petitioner? Hearing none. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition? Again, hearing none. Martha, any correspondence?
No.
Thank you. Any closing comments?
No, just thank you very much for considering it.
Thank you. Discussion, motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you.
In the planning and zoning case 23-11000013, I move we find there is competent and substantial evidence in the record that all the requirements for granting the variance have been met, and that we grant the variance subject to the 2 conditions requested by staff.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion. It's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
I just want to thank you. I serve as my HOA president, and I know it's a thankless job, so I thank you for your duties.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Please call the roll.
Richard Daly,
Yes.
Charlotte Burry,
Yes.
James Bunn,
Yes.
Penny Cutt,
Yes.
Linda Thomas,
Yes.
Dan Yaffe.
Yes, you're approved.
Thank you.
Go paint stripes.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, very much. Thank you.
Item number 2, variance for Lisette Sacone. It's a variance request PNZ 23-11000015.
Good evening. My name is Lisette Sacone, S-A-C-O-N, and I live at 401 Southwest 18th Court. And yes, I'm sworn in.
You got it. If you just speak up a little bit. But actually, we're going to need to hear from Scott first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening again. Scott Reale with Development Services. In this case, the applicant landowner is requesting a variance from Section 155-5302D5A, which is the rear yard corner triangle for waterfront properties on the City of Pompano Beach zoning code in order to allow a 6-foot opaque fence located along the interior side lot lines to encroach 5 feet into the rear yard corner triangle, rather than provide a 6-foot fence that's at least 75% see-through in the rear yard corner triangle as required by code. This property is located on the north side of Southwest 18th Court and west of Southwest 3rd Avenue in the Boulevard Park Isles Section 4 subdivision. The subject property has no open code compliance cases, no business tax receipts. The property was developed in 1961 for construction of a single-family dwelling and was annexed into the city in 1969 via House Bill 2638. For decades, the zoning code only allowed chain link fencing within 15 feet of a waterway or canal. The code was later revised to allow for other fencing material so long it was at least 75% see-through. The proposed plans would comply with code, but not for the 5 feet of fencing along the interior side lot lines located just inside of the rear yard corner triangle. And interestingly enough, the applicant previously obtained relief from the ZBA for the exact same request in 2018 via PNZ number 18-11000018. Unfortunately, the variance order expired on July 31st, 2020, because a building permit for the fence was never submitted and a development order extension was never requested. Fence permit 23-5456 was recently approved and complies with code requirements. However, if this variance application is approved, the applicant will likely submit a revision to reflect the proposed relief. The applicant claims the dwellings on the adjacent properties obstruct the water views as they are set back only 20 feet from the waterway versus this property. And in addition, the landowner can see directly into the bathroom of one of the adjacent dwellings. A privacy fence that encroaches 5 feet into the site visibility triangle may help shield the adjacent property from view. As you know, there are 8 variance review standards. They're included in the staff report. The applicant has addressed each of these, and should the board determine that the applicant has provided competent substantial evidence to satisfy the 8 variance review standards, staff recommends the board include the following 2 conditions as part of the order. 1, obtain all necessary governmental permits and approvals for the fence, including building and zoning compliance permits, utility easement agreement forms, and all necessary inspections. And the second recommended condition, when submitting a revision to building permit BP 23-5456, each segment of fence must clearly show all setbacks, total linear width of each fence segment, fence material height, and percentage see-through. That concludes staff's report.
I think I've heard this one before.
You're the only one. Everyone else was,
I'm the only one? Okay.
Yes, yes.
In that case, guys, you're going to be in for it. The houses on both sides were set back 20 feet, and this house is set back 30 feet?
I think 25 to 30.
I'm just trying to
Yeah,
remember.
yeah.
Okay, well, you go ahead and make your presentation, because here's the thing. You were approved once before, but there's no guarantee that you're going to be approved again. I'm the only one who heard it. They have it. You've got to convince pretty much all of us.
Understand. Good evening, board members. As Mr. Raleigh and the chairman said, I have requested.
Could you
the
speak a
same
little closer to the
variance
microphone?
In 2018, in which you graciously approved it. Unfortunately, I didn't realize there was a time limit on it, so that was my error. When we actually finally was able to proceed with the project that we wanted to do, which is the fence, we submitted the permit, and that's when I was made aware that the variance had expired. Expired in July of 2020, right in the height of COVID. So regardless, there wasn't going to be happening anyways at that time. As you can see in the pictures, this is actually prior to our purchase of the house. These 2 structures to the left and to the right, the homes, this is our west side home. That is the building, the end of the building, and you can see the fence is actually at 20 feet. I have another picture. So that existing fence is already at 20 feet, encroaching the ruling of 25 feet. And then on my right side, which would be the east house, the structure is actually as well at 20 feet, but that fence is actually 30 feet set back. So, and you can see that window is the neighbor's bathroom, and I can see when they put, their garbage, their junk, or whatever they have there. So I would like to request also for aesthetics purposes to have the east and the west at 20 feet. So this gives you a little clearer shot. The house is actually as well almost at 20 feet. 25, I'd have a big chunk. So I would like to request, if you don't mind, it's a difference of 5 feet of the variance that I'm requesting to have on the right side, which would be the east side, to encroach 5 feet. So I have the same exact on both sides. I don't know what else to say. That's basically it. It's just 5 feet that I'm asking for.
Does the board have any, the board's read through the package, I'm sure. Does the board have any questions?
Turn on your microphone, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So just to clarify, you want the fence to basically go to
20 feet.
in line with the adjacent buildings?
Well, we're doing the fence, and the left one, the right one, which is the east side, is not at 25, and the left one is at 20. So I'd like to, since we're doing the fence, to have them both equal length, which would be 20, because the left one is already at 20.
Thank you.
Any other questions? This is a public hearing. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak in support of the petitioner? Hearing none. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition? Again, hearing none. Martha, communication?
No.
Okay. So what we're trying to do here is basically, you've got your neighbors on both sides
Correct.
have their houses out maybe 20 feet.
20,
setback.
18 roughly
Yeah.
from the water. And prior fences were already established before we got there. So the left one's been there, no one's touched it, and the right one's been there. We just need to update it. And so this is what we found out.
Okay. Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. Board discussion or a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
I'm trying to picture, you're talking about, you got two houses with a setback 25 feet from the water and one in the middle 20 feet?
Other way around.
The other way around.
The other way around?
Yeah. The ones on the side of her are much closer. They're about roughly 20 feet from the water.
Right, that's the new code.
Right.
That's
And her-
25.
But
It's
her-
25.
25.
Yeah.
Her house is actually at code at 25, but all she does is look out to the walls of the houses on the side of her, so she wanted to extend her fence to meet basically their setback roughly. There's 5 more feet. You know, we've got on our canals 25 feet.
Yeah.
And she wants to be at 20 feet. So
Left house is already at 20 feet. So it'd just be adjusting the right one.
Well, one of the big things that I know people are concerned about, especially that live on the water, is the reason the 75% or 85% visibility see-through is that you don't want their view up and down the canals obstructed if you're sitting
It's
out there.
obstructed by the houses on both sides of her.
So this won't affect that.
That's, yeah, this won't affect.
And the neighbor's actually part of the project.
I'm sorry, but we've closed that part of the discussion. Scott can answer any other questions.
Yeah, just to clarify, it's the 5 feet is of that 25 feet, it's the furthest away from the water, so it probably would not obstruct
Okay,
use.
I was just wondering.
I'm just curious why you didn't take advantage of the first variance.
To be honest, I didn't realize we had an expiration date, even though
Sorry,
it was.
I need a motion to reopen the hearing.
Sorry.
I'm really sorry, I apologize, I should have asked that question.
These are the questions we need
know, I know.
beforehand. So do I have a motion to reopen the hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now the hearing is reopened. Please ask your question.
Completely slipped my mind. that
We
I
can
didn't ask
talk
the question.
amongst
I got you,
ourselves.
I'm with you. Why didn't you take advantage of the first variance? I'm just curious.
To be honest, I didn't know, I didn't remember, or I'm sure Scott pointed out to me, Mr. Reale, that there was an expiration, but I completely wasn't aware of it. And then COVID happened, things in life happened, so we finally got around to the project, and that's when we submitted the permit. We realized that the variance had expired. And even if we had done it in July 20th or extension, it's still, that was primetime COVID, so I don't think we would have been able to do it at that time to begin with.
That's fair. Do you have intentions of completing the project in a certain time frame at this point?
Yeah,
or-
we're ready. We just need the variance.
Okay.
Scott, they pulled a permit and it's held up at building, right?
The permit actually complies with code to be 75% see-through, but they'll probably, if the board grants this variance, they'll probably go back in for a revision for that last 5 feet to make it solid, yeah.
Cool.
All right.
I'm good. I apologize for.
No. Any other questions? I want to be sure everybody hears everything to make a good decision. No other questions? Okay. Now the public hearing is closed. Board discussion or a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you.
In the planning and zoning case 23-11000015, I move we find there is competent and substantial evidence in the record that all requirements for granting the variance have been met, and that we grant the variance subject to the 2 conditions requested by staff.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion. It's been made and seconded. Further discussion? Please call the roll.
Richard Daly,
Yes.
Penny Cutt,
Yes.
James Bunn,
Yes.
Charlotte Burry,
Yes.
Linda Thomas, and Dan Yaffe.
Yes. Good luck. Don't come
so
back in
much.
2 more years. I mean,
No!
get it done.
Thank you so much.
Item number 3, LN 504, special exception for 3225 Northeast 7th Street LLC, P&Z 23-17-0005.
Hello, everyone. My name is Or Hen. 2201 Solemia Square Lane, North Miami, Florida, 33181.
I'm sorry, could you tell us your name again?
Yes, first name O-R, last name Hen, H-E-N.
Thank you.
It's easy, that's how it's hard as well.
Exactly. Have you been sworn in?
Yes.
Okay, great. Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The applicant landowner is requesting special exception approval as required by Section 155-4225C1, which are the districts permitted of the Pompano Beach zoning code in order to utilize the subject property, which is zoned RM20 for a hotel or motel. The property is located on the Barrier Island on the north side of Northeast 7th Street between North Riverside Drive and North Ocean Boulevard, which of course is A1A. Subject property has no open code compliance cases, no building permits, no business tax receipts. Although the original building permits could not be found in the city's digital archives, the Broward County Property Appraiser's website and the city's index card file suggests that the property was developed in the mid-1950s. And then BTR records and zoning use certificate records show that the property has operated as an 8-unit rental property for decades, alternating between apartments and a hotel motel. However, the most recent use was for rental apartments, and therefore the motel-hotel use can only be reestablished through granting of a special exception. The allowable density for hotels differs from the number of permanent multifamily units. The maximum number of hotel rooms is allowed to be twice the number of permanent dwelling units. And further, visitor accommodations can use gross density to determine the maximum number of rooms. Gross density is the net acreage of the subject property, which is 7,500 square feet, plus the area to the center line of the adjacent right-of-way. That's another 2,500 square feet. Because the land use category is MH, medium high, which allows for 25 dwelling units per acre. The gross density allows for a total of 11 hotel lodging units. However, the applicant is proposing only 8 lodging units, which is the number of units currently existing on the subject property. The parking requirement for hotels of this size is 1 per lodging unit. Aerial and street imagery suggests the site has sufficient parking. It looks like there are 9 spaces for the proposed use. It should be noted that the existing parking spaces encroach onto the Northeast 7th Street right-of-way. However, this is an extremely common legal nonconformity with older properties on the Barrier Island. There are a variety of visitor accommodation uses located on the Barrier Island, including condo hotel, bed and breakfast, hotel, motel, short-term rentals, many of which are located in multifamily residential zoning districts. And in recent years, as you know, the ZBA has granted a number of special exceptions for a hotel-motel use in the RM20 zoning district. There is a comprehensive plan policy, that's 010310, which says support and promote hotels, motels, and other tourist accommodations in designated residential, commercial, and commercial recreational land use designations. And also the zoning code itself in the RM20 zoning district supports a limited neighborhood serving non-residential uses, including office buildings, financial institutions, hotels and motels, and condo hotels allowed as special exceptions in the RM20 zoning district. As you know, there are 13 special exception review standards. They're noted in the staff report, and the applicant has addressed each of these standards. And if the board determines that the applicant has provided competent substantial evidence sufficient to satisfy those special exception review standards, staff requests the board include the following condition as part of the order, and that is to obtain all necessary governmental permits and approvals, including change of certificate of occupancy and a zoning use certificate, business tax receipt for the hotel motel use with a maximum of 8 lodging units. And that concludes staff's report.
Thank you, Scott. Sir, tell us why you're here.
Of course, first of all, thank you, board members, for hearing us today. Scott, thank you personally for assisting us along the way.
Could you speak up just a little bit louder, please?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
We're here today. Again, it's very challenging to add a lot of things after everything that Scott is saying, but we're here to request a special exception for hotel/motel. From our understanding, this property, and this is the owner that here with me today, this is the way they bought it. It's already been operated in the past for that use. It goes with a comprehensive plan of the city, of the future development of all this area with the tourism and accommodation. Besides of that, not a lot of things to add. Everything is, we're not looking to add something to the property. Everything is pretty much ready to go. The property been renovated. All of them consisted of 8 units, studio units, which also pretty small for residential in general and fits to this specific request. It goes in harmony with all the surrounding, and that's it pretty much. This is what we're requesting today.
Your mic.
No, I was just reviewing, again, we all got your backup material. Does the board have any questions?
I just have a quick question for staff here.
Sure.
If we approve the special exception tonight, and they have it at 8 units now, can they add units later because under the code they can add units, or is it a situation they would have to come back for a request after that again?
They would have to come back because we conditioned it to 8 lodging units, and they don't have, frankly, they don't have the parking for any more than that, right?
That's what my concern was, is that there is not enough parking there.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Hey, I know you've
just
got
to
one.
confirm, the previous apartments had 7 units. They're allowed up to 11 units if it's a hotel, and they're proposing 8?
Correct.
Thank you.
Actually, I think there were 8. I've seen permits in the past regarding this site. Some say there were 7 units, some say there were 8 units, so there's been 8 units for a while.
So it's no increase in the number of existing
No,
units? It's
no.
just basically a change in
Exactly.
use?
This is all
And it's
paperwork.
less than they could theoretically have if they could accommodate the parking?
Correct, and they're voluntarily restricting it to 8 lodging units, correct.
Any other questions?
How many employees do you think you'll have there at any given point in time?
So at any given time, it's going to be only 1 employee, just basically a staff member on site. But besides of that, everything is pretty much operating remotely.
Okay, so that 9th parking spot realistically would be for the employee?
Exactly. No, so only 1 employee, and the 9 parking spot, 1 spot for an employee. And also, if I know that parking is a concern, I can tell you, and we're operating close to 100 units in South Florida, and most of our guests not even requiring a parking spot because they are coming just for a vacation. And we also charging for a parking spot to basically kind of like discourage them to arrive with a car. And they need to reserve a parking. They cannot get a parking spot if they didn't reserve.
That works for me.
Okay.
One other quick question. I'm assuming an ADA accessible space is required and provided?
So in our advertisement, we never advertise for handicapped people and ADA. So we are not claiming that we are. So basically, that's the answer.
When this goes through with the zoning use certificate, multiple disciplines look at it, including the building department, and they regulate the ADA. So if one is required, I don't know, but if one is required, that they will have to provide that in order to get their approvals, the BTR.
Any other questions? This is a public hearing. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak in support? Hearing none. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Again, hearing none.
I'd like to just note that there were 2 public comments in the negative on this.
I'm sorry?
There's 2 public
No,
comments.
we're going to get there.
Sorry.
In fact, I was just pulling that up right now. And Martha already told me about those. Just going to see if there's anything in particular. No, one gentleman just says it'll only cause more congestion, and the other one, We do not want an exception. We do not want the current apartment rental to become hotel motel again. We would like the area to become zoned more residential. And those are in the public record. So we do have 2 negative comments. Any closing comments before you?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Board have any additional? Okay, in that case, public hearing is closed. Board discussion or a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
in planning and zoning case number 23-17-00005, I move we find that there's competent and substantial evidence in the record that all requirements for granting the special exception, have been met, and that we grant that special exception subject to the conditions as requested by staff.
Second.
Thank you. Further discussion? Please call the roll.
Charlotte Burry,
Yes.
Penny Cutt,
Yes.
James Bunn,
Yes.
Richard Dally,
Yes.
Linda Thomas,
Yes.
Dan Yaffe.
Yes, you're approved. Good luck.
Thank you.
We have a relatively short agenda tonight. Item number 4, LN 505, a special exception for Shabtai Investments, Inc., P&Z 23-170006.
My name is Zach Ramsey. My address is 11340 Heron Bay Boulevard, Coral Springs, Florida, apartment 2523, and I have been sworn in.
Thank you. And could you spell your last name, Mr. Ramsey?
Ramsey.
Thank you. Mr. Reale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For our last case of the evening, the applicant landowner is requesting special exception approval as required by Section 155-4219D1. The districts were permitted of the Pompano Beach zoning code in order to utilize the subject property, which is Zone B3 for automotive parts sales with installation to wrapping vehicles with vinyl in an enclosed facility. The property is located on the west side of North Federal Highway between Sample Road and Northeast 39th Street, and the parcel is considered a through lot with Northeast 18th Terrace abutting the west lot line. The subject property has an active business tax receipt for an auto dealer with outdoor display of vehicles. The subject property has an open structural violation case dating back to 2016. That's case number 16-06002823 for an interior remodel without permits. This case can be closed out when building permit 17-1846 is closed. Additionally, the subject property has an active violation, case number 23-650000831, regarding a building safety inspection program recertification fee. Mario Sotolongo can speak more to that if you have questions about these violations. The property was annexed into Pompano Beach September 14th, 2004 via Resolution 2004-323, and permit archives from Broward County are limited, but suggest the site has been used primarily as a used car dealership since at least the 1980s, probably earlier. Although this use and the proposed use both fall under the broad umbrella of motor vehicle sales and service uses, the specific business model that the applicant is proposing closely aligns with automotive parts sales with installation, which requires a special exception in the B3 zoning district. Now, while the city's adopted transformation plan for federal highway discourages new auto-oriented uses, the wrapping vehicles with vinyl is arguably a continuation of a related motor vehicle use that the building was designed for and is used for. Additionally, the property immediately to the south is a tire and auto repair business. Thus, it does not seem out of character for an automotive-related use to continue operating at this site. The applicant states that all business activity will occur entirely within the existing building, which is consistent with code requirements. The 13 special exception review standards are included in the staff report, and should the board determine the applicant has provided competent substantial evidence sufficient to satisfy those review standards, staff requests the board include the following 4 conditions as part of the order. 1, obtain all necessary governmental permits and approvals, including a zoning use certificate and business tax receipt for the use. 2, close out all the open code violations. Again, that's 16-06002823 and 23-650000831, and close out building permit number 17-1846. The third recommended staff condition, approval is primarily limited to wrapping vehicles with vinyl in an enclosed facility. Should other uses become the predominant business model, a new zoning use certificate and possibly a new special exception will be required. And the fourth recommended staff condition, no operation associated with the use shall occur in a manner which impedes the normal free flow of traffic, vehicular or pedestrian, on adjacent rights-of-way, and that's North Federal Highway and Northeast 18th Terrace. And that concludes staff's report.
Mr. Ramsey?
We're requesting a special exception tonight. Essentially, the business that we're looking to perform there has been done mobily by other installers, both here and across other locations in Pompano and in the South Florida area. We're looking to provide a more stable and congruent business for the members of Pompano Beach and everywhere around, so that when the services are being performed, they have an actual business to report back to should there be any issues or dissatisfactory work. Everything that we're doing is conducted inside. There's no smell, there's no sound, there's no chemical. The harshest thing we use is Johnson & Johnson baby soap. So there's no negative, reading through the checklist, there won't be an impediment to traffic or surrounding domicile or businesses, purely because we simply don't have the space in the building to have enough traffic coming through to disrupt the flow of traffic on Northeast 18th. And everything, again, is conducted inside of the building, which is housed in concrete, and we use no loud machinery or anything. So essentially, we're just looking to set up shop permanently for something that's been done primarily mobily by other installers.
So if I understand, you're going to do wraps, paint protection film?
Yep. Yeah, those are our two primary sources. So that basically we use like a stretchy vinyl that goes over the cars. It's got an adhesive on the back. Some is clear, some is colored.
I'm familiar with some of these other things. May not be.
Yeah, so essentially the paint protection film is a wet application, which is where the Johnson & Johnson baby soap comes in. It's mixed in a spray bottle with water. Not a lot applied, just basically enough to wet the back of the film. You slide it in place, and then the water squeegeed out and mopped up off the floor. And then the other vinyl is what's called cold stretch. So basically we literally pull the backing off like you would a sticker on the window, and we stretch the corners out and lay it over the panels and then slowly work the wrinkles out. And it essentially has no negative impact as far as noise or anything that the concerns for the special exception raised.
The only question I have is, are you going to be doing detailing there?
No, so that was the main concern when we first went for the special exception, was that there's not really a class that lays out what we're doing for business. Now, I will tell you that there has been, obviously being that it's an automotive dealership now, they do clean their cars in the case of delivery there, but we're not a detail shop. I have no interest in cleaning cars at all. So
I know some companies do the paint,
Yep.
all the wrapping, the paint protection, and then they do the I can't remember, the ceramic coatings.
Yes, so a lot of, they do offer detailing. I simply, A, we don't really have the room for that, and B, the detailing portion of the business is nothing that we ever really wanted to delve into. Both me and the gentleman that will be working with me, we've been in the car business a long time, and we kind of have both washed our hands, per se, of detailing cars. We've had enough of going home with wet shoes, and so we don't wish to do that.
Okay, thank you. Board have any questions?
The current structure you're going to be working out of, you're not doing any additions to it or anything like that. It's something that's already in place there.
Everything is laid out the way it needs to be now, so there'll be absolutely no changes to the building existing at all.
Okay. I was just asking about the structure of the building. He said there's going to be no changes.
No changes whatsoever. The building will remain as is. There'll be, there's nothing. The building has been done. Also, in regards to the no application pulled for construction, I spoke with the landlord this morning. He said the 2016 concern was prior to his ownership, but he'd be more than happy to settle that this week. He said all the construction that we've done on the building was permitted. So he said he told me whether this goes for you well tonight or not, I will be settling that this week.
And you know, that's, any approvals we might give tonight are contingent upon
Certainly.
all of that getting taken care
Yep,
of.
absolutely. I spoke with Raphael.
This is the time we can get to, hold somebody's feet to the fire when they want something.
Yeah, absolutely. So I spoke with Raphael briefly before I came in tonight, and he said to assure you guys that whatever was outstanding on his building, he would be more than happy to resolve.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak in support of the petitioner? Does anyone, seeing none, does anyone wish to speak in opposition? Again, seeing none. I don't see any correspondence, Martha. Is there any that I'm not?
No.
Okay, great. Does the board have any final questions for the applicant? Closing comments?
Nothing.
All right. Public hearing is now closed. Board discussion, motion,
I'd like to make a motion.
please do.
In the planning and zoning case 23-1700006, I move we find there is competent and substantial evidence in the record that all requirements for granting the special exception have been met, and that we grant that special exception subject to the 4 conditions requested by staff.
Yes.
Second.
4. Second?
No, Penny did second, so
Penny seconded?
we're ready to take a vote.
Go ahead. We have a motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. Call the roll.
Richard Daly,
Yes.
Penny Cutt,
Yes.
James Bunn,
Yes.
Charlotte Burry,
Yes.
Linda Thomas,
Yes.
and Dan Yaffe.
Yes, you're approved. Penny, I didn't hear you make that second at all. Yeah. Any further, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I just wanted to remind everybody about the ethics thing next week on Thursday. That's it.
All right. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
We are done.